Well, hello and welcome, everyone. Happy holidays. They're here again. This is Walt Hampton.
And this is 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏. Thank you for joining us.
We're so happy that you're here. Carl and I have been riffing a little bit about all of the pre-holiday publicity and sale promotions and credit card promotions. And we're so looking forward to this time together with you. First of all, know that we are not selling anything off this webinar. A lot of webinars, people expect a little bit of a promotion at the end. We're not doing that. We do have a special invitation for those of you who stay with us to the end. So we hope that you'll do that. We expect that we'll go probably pretty close to the hour. And we're going to give you really implementable stuff that you can use. So if you're not driving and you have a notebook or an open Google Doc, that would be great, because we got a lot of good stuff to share with you today. Carl, the holidays are here again.
Indeed they are. We are under a full frontal assault with emails, etc. So
in the ordinary times, especially this year, it just seems there have been a lot of pressures, particularly in the last couple of months, as the economy has become a bit more challenging. The stressors of day-to-day life are huge. And so this is the base that we have, that many of us are dealing with, under a pile of paper, under many deadlines, lots and lots of stuff going on with kids and families and job responsibilities and all of that. And if you're experiencing that, you're not alone. I mean, it's a thing. It's real. It's not imagined. And yet, Carl, the holidays just add to that joy.
Indeed they do. And I'll give you a funny anecdote. Just a few days ago in the New York Times, I got an email from them. They provided a list of 67 of the best gifts under $50, with the admonition that you could review this and spare yourself, quote, the cruel disappointment of buying something that isn't great, end quote.
I love that. The cruel disappointment, as if we need to add to the list.
Correct. And American Express sent me an email last night saying, update your account profile ahead of the holiday shopping season. I'm not sure why I would need to do that, but and so it begins.
And so it begins. But friends, imagine that there might be a better way, that you could get through the holidays feeling peaceful, that you have some extra space, there's not a lot of stress, and they're filled with the joy that they ought to be filled with. And I want to assure you that that isn't some pie in the sky thing. That is absolutely possible. And we're going to show you today, share with you today, give you strategies today that you can use that will allow you not only just to get through the holidays, and that's if you're here, you probably have the experience of just getting through the holidays. We want you to show up and have wonderful holidays and thrive and not just survive. So that, Carl,
you wake up on January 2nd feeling happy, as opposed to broke, perhaps hungover, and just totally washed out.
Yeah, I actually saw a promo already for a January detox. We'll talk a little bit about that, but people are pre-framing that already. That's a thing. Friends, we're going to share with you 5 key strategies today. And as I said, we want these to be really practical. We're going to ask you before we're done today to be curious and playful and experiment with at least one of these strategies. We're not going to ask you necessarily to post it, but we are going to invite you politely to engage one of these strategies and implement them. So before we dive in, Who are these handsome men, and why should we listen to them?
Other than little bubbles in the upper right-hand corner. Thanks, Walt. As Walt mentioned, my name's Carl Fix. I, again, thank you for joining Walt and me today. I was in the private practice of law for over 30 years on the litigation side of the house. I pivoted out of the law in May of 2021, and I founded this company, No Surrender, dedicating all my efforts, passion, and drive to helping busy professionals get back in the fitness game so they can be less stressed and more productive. I am intimately familiar with what is on the horizon. When I practiced law, between now and year end was no different than being on that childhood toy known as a slip and slide. Judges would schedule trials right up to Christmas, perhaps to leverage the parties to settle cases in lieu of being in court on December 24th, and then again the following week. Adjusters wanted to settle files and get the claims off the insurance company books before year end. The number of client and industry holiday parties was mind-numbing with all the attendant temptations. On top of this, I spent many waking hours chasing down accounts receivable before December 31st. And oh yeah, while ripping down the slip and slide, there was also this thing called life and the commitments made to my wife, my daughters, my community, and my friends. Tumultuous is an accurate word to describe this time of year. I'm familiar with it, and it's very hard to navigate by yourself. So again, I'm thrilled that you've joined us. Thank you.
And Carl, I know you lost the tie. I'm still looking for you to get rid of the jacket. I'm Walt, and we're thrilled to have you here. Like Carl, I was in the law for many decades. I was the managing partner of a litigation firm. For 12 of those years, I was a single dad raising 3 young boys on my own while managing the law firm and trying to stay sane. And yes, I had hair back then. For the last 16 years, I've been CEO and founder of Summit Success International, a global personal and professional development firm where we work with a lot of high-performing professionals across industries, helping them create the work and the lives they really love. And as an ultra-distance runner and a high-altitude mountaineer, I am passionate about wellness and well-being, and so eager to share some strategies that we've worked with for many, many years that we know will work for you. So, Carl, I think we should dive into the first key. And the first key, friends, may sound super simple, but deciding in advance what you want these holidays to be. Carl, you and I are travelers. We get on airplanes, we go places. When we travel, we actually envision a destination.
Yes, we do. And then we plot on how we are going to get there and back.
Yeah.
Safely and economically.
Yes, without accidents or incidents, hopefully. And we do this for travel. We often will do it, hopefully, with our business lives and planning out our week for ourselves, for our kids, for our loved ones. But we often enter into the holiday season by default. Let's just see how this ends up, friends. And it often doesn't end up very well. We end up exhausted and depleted on the 2nd of January, just thankful that we got through another one. What we want to invite you to do is to envision, actually get clear, like today, this weekend, what you want the next 6 or 7 weeks to be for you and for your family. And to do this, we would invite you actually to journal it out, like write it down. It's one thing. If you're on this webinar, you suffer from SPS, smart person syndrome. You think you can figure out all of this stuff in your head. I know these are the people that Carl and I work with all of the time. But when it stays in your head, it stays amorphous. We want to encourage you to actually get it out on a piece of paper. And the power of a vision board is really good. You could take magazine photos or photos that you find on the interweb and put them up on your computer that might show, the joy and the peace and the solitude or the family gatherings that you like. And then, Carl, this is, you and I are big on enrolling and accountability. If you share your vision, and we talk about this at work, share your vision with your team. But here, sharing it with your plus one, your significant other, your partner, your children, and actually getting them on board and excited, Carl, with the whole process of what you want to decide this holiday season to be.
Agree 100%. And I'll share an anecdote. Last year, my mileage goal was whatever it was, and I had 1,400 miles left to get to that goal with 4 months. So I created this fun little thing called 4 for 1,400. I put it out on social media. I even wore the tight biking shorts to embarrass myself. And I held up a sign that said, "I will ride for you." And that basically got me involved with the community. And I would ride miles in honor or in memory of somebody or something. And that made those 1,400 miles in the ensuing 4 months easily doable, because I had basically shared my vision of those 1,400 miles with the community and those that I engage with. So before I knew it, the 1,400 miles and the 4 months passed. There was some effort there, but it seemed effortless because I had shared my vision of my goal, my mileage goal, and I enrolled my community to help support me, and I supported them through the rides.
Love that. And by the way, Carl, I'm not envisioning that you go with the spandex for the profile pic, just maybe something without the jacket. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we're one and done on
that. All right. Key number 2, friends, is knowing what the most important asset is, and it's you. You must protect you first at all cost.
Correct.
It's axiomatic. We'll come to this. It's axiomatic, if not cliche, to say, we hear this proclaimed on the airplanes. If the oxygen masks drop down, you need to take care of your oxygen mask first. Why? Because if you're dead on the cabin floor, you can't help anybody else. And so you got to protect you.
Yeah, if I could add something, Walt,
yes.
If we could just go right back to the asset slide.
I can do that.
When I first passed the bar and started practicing law, I had financial planners, I had life insurance people coming out of the woodwork who wanted to work with me because I was a potential source of income. And part of asset protection, it's a component of financial planning to protect your assets from creditors, from taxation, etc. So just porting that over to this, what are the creditors that are after you? The creditors are exhaustion, overwhelm, stress, and frustration, and they're coming for you. So why not protect you, your body, which is the asset, no different than you protect the assets that sit in your bank accounts? It's totally analogous.
Absolutely. And so within this key, we've broken it down into what we call the wellness triad. Carl and I often will go into organizations and law firms and do half-day, full-day workshops around wellness for professionals. And this wellness triad is a really worthwhile way of thinking about the core components of how you go about creating the wellness that will protect the asset through these holidays. And so I'm going to kick off the eating piece, because this is something that can be a huge challenge. Just before we got on, Carl, I was looking at the Amazon Alexa screen that was offering the holiday tips and treats for peanut butter brownies, and it just sounded like a really good thing. I almost didn't show up for the webinar. The key is eating good, clean food through these next 7 weeks and beyond. Protein, lots of vegetables. I often say to people, you know, the diet industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and yet it doesn't, it's not rocket surgery. Eat green food, eat salad, drink water, and it's hard to go wrong.
If I could add
Doesn't need to be
something
complicated. Yeah, go ahead.
If I could add some, I'm sorry, Walt. If I could add something on the protein, I am not a nutritionist, but I know I am, like Walt, an endurance athlete, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I know what works and I know what doesn't. I have worked with nutritionists on my training, and on the protein. Why protein? Well, it's slower to digest, and you feel satiated or satisfied longer, and it can regulate your blood sugar. And it's one of 3 key macronutrients. So protein is very important. In fact, the nutritionist I worked a few years back when I was heavy duty marathoning. She had me keep a food log, and she immediately got back to me and said, where's your protein? This is too carb heavy. You need more protein. So I tweaked that. So protein is important.
Absolutely. And those of you who have followed me for a long time know that as a ultra distance runner, we are vegetarians. And so, you know, supplementing the protein matters a lot. And regardless of whether you're a vegetarian or not, balancing how you eat and what you eat, you know, garbage in, garbage out, good, clean food will take you a long way. And not so parenthetically, oftentimes when we feel hungry, we're actually dehydrated. So staying really hydrated through the season of joy. Breakfast is a really important component of the day. Watching how much you eat, you know, it's not just calories in and calories out. That the science shows that it's not just that. But measuring what goes in does matter. What you measure matters. And Carl, you and I have talked a lot about this alcohol thing. I make it a practice not to drink through the holidays. I am prone, Carl, as you know, to seasonal affective disorder, which is when the light begins to fade. My serotonin levels begin to drop, and alcohol, because it's a depressant, will take me down the rabbit hole further. And so generally, I don't drink alcohol during the holidays. There's nothing wrong. We're not teetotalers, but watching that alcohol intake is critical.
Very, very much so. And just pulling on that thread a bit, there are thankfully far more alternatives now. Everybody's heard the phrase mocktails. Those are a thing. Non-alcoholic beer is also a thing. For those of us old enough to remember O'Doul's, the non-alcoholic beers out there are not your daddy's O'Doul's. And I'll give you an anecdote. There are a lot of these races, the marathons and half marathons and 5Ks, where they have a beer garden after the race. 2 weeks ago, I was in Washington, D.C. I ran the Marine Corps Marathon 10K with my daughter. Every runner got a ticket for a free beer. In the beer garden, it was sponsored by Athletic Brewing, which has an incredible line of non-alcoholic beers. In fact, that's all Athletic Brewing does, thus the name. So the free beer that was given to the runners was, in fact, a non-alcoholic beer from Athletic Brewing. Athletic Brewing is also in the physical fitness space. They sponsor Ironman triathletes all around the world, and it's a Connecticut-based company. But the other big players are getting in on it too. Heineken, Guinness, Lagunitas, Brooklyn Brewery, they all have a lineup of non-alcoholic beers. So if you like beer, they're great alternatives. And if I could just take one step back, Walt, to breakfast, I just wanted to add, why breakfast? Studies have shown that if you skip breakfast, your blood pressure, in fact, could go up. So that's reason enough to, put something in your stomach in the morning.
Absolutely. So some simple practices. Again, as we said at the beginning, we want to make this super granular. Practices that we use. Meaning my business partner, wife, and Shivani, we actually sit down on a Sunday and plan out our meals for the week. We plan them out, and then we go out and we shop that plan, and we shop only the plan. Now, as ultra distance athletes, we are not exempt from going down the rabbit hole with chocolate chip cookies or peanut butter brownies. If I were to bring a sleeve of chocolate chip cookies into the house this weekend, they would call to me, Carl, in the night. They'd say, Walt, come eat me. And I would happily acquiesce and eat the entire sleeve. If they're in the house, I will eat them. If I have to get into the car at 10 p.m. to go to the 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, I'm less likely to eat them. So the simple practices of planning what you're going to have in the house during the holidays and committing to that, even though you could make the excuse, oh, the kids will like it or they'll miss the Christmas cookies. Just saying, plan it, and you're going to be much more likely to stay the course.
It helps. Well said.
So some more simple practices, friends. There's this, I think it was Al Gore who originated the internet, was it? I don't know. That's a different program. But there is this thing called the interweb that we're all on right now. And you can actually go on websites to pre-plan what you're going to eat when you go out. In the ordinary course, often, you're excited, you're out with friends, you're celebrating. It's easy to go kind of wild. But if you go online and plan what you're going to order so that you show up already knowing, you're going to be much more mindful and intentional around what you're going to order. Same thing when you go to a party. Decide, are you gonna drink? How many drinks you're gonna have? Are you gonna have? You're gonna go to the dessert buffet or not? Make a decision beforehand. And because, as Carl suggests early on, it is very hard to do this yourself, by yourself. It really is. It is for every single one of us, yours truly included. Ann and I will usually talk, Carl, before we go out the door. You going to the buffet bar tonight? No, I don't think that's a good idea. I won't go either. How many drinks you going to have? Because we want to be responsible in terms of driving, of course, but we also want to be, we also are likely going to get up the next day and run. And so planning that and enrolling your plus one, your partner, your significant other, your party mates, that really helps.
And it does. Like you said, you're going to get up the next day and run. Scheduling, which we're going to touch on, a workout is a phenomenal guardrail to keep you moving forward. And if you're mindful of that, like tomorrow I'm doing X, you may think twice about what you're going to do that evening.
Yeah. And by the way, that's not part of this. I sometimes include, you cannot outrun your fork. A piece of cheesecake is like 800 calories, and you burn about 100 calories a mile as a runner. And the whole thing goes into my mind, Carl, do I really want to run an extra 8 miles tomorrow? I think not.
Right.
Anyway, over to you, counselor, on the exercise front.
All right. So exercise, where do I start? I have embedded an exercise component in my daily, weekly, and monthly routine for a very, very long time. And I will in all candor admit the first 5 years of my law practice, I completely and utterly neglected things. And I realized it was not sustainable. So I got back to where I was as a younger guy in college and law school, and I recaptured that, and I haven't deviated. I work out in the morning. It gives me phenomenal clarity of thought. There was a joke at my law firm when I would come in and I'd talk to one of my partners or associates. I'd say, hey, I have this idea. And they would laugh and say, oh, so you went running this morning, or, oh, you were on your bike this morning. That's where I had my ideas. And I still have my ideas. People will say, hey, we need a name for this fundraiser. And I'll tell them, oh, well, I'm going riding Saturday morning. I'll think of something. And I come back post-ride, do a brain dump, and I have 6 or 7 ideas for them. So I found exercise to be very, very helpful in my professional life and personal life because I show up better. Studies abound, this is just one of them from 𝗪𝗡𝗪, on the benefits of exercise. It clearly reduces depressive symptoms, strong correlation of preventing cognitive decline. And it's just, there's nothing but upside on your mental health and well-being on the exercise.
No question about it. And like you, Carl, it has always been part of my life, although at times it waxes and wanes. But it's one of the core components that is part of our daily practices. And the daily practices, they don't have to be like hours and hours and hours like you and I sometimes do as we're training up.
Correct. So, disclaimer, I'm going to dump a little here on Starbucks. No offense to the Starbucks folks that are on the call. I was a Dunkin' Donuts aficionado until they changed their rewards program a few weeks ago. I may divorce them and move over to Starbucks, but I digress.
Thank you for
Starbucks. If you don't have the Starbucks app, then you're in line at a Starbucks for, at times, 20 plus minutes. In fact, I switched planes recently in Baltimore, and I, for kicks, counted the Starbucks line. There were 36 people in the line. If you average 2 minutes per drink, 36 times 2, 72 minutes. So those people have made the decision that morning to wait in a Starbucks line for more than 1 hour. So if you're willing, let's cut that down to wait for 20 minutes in a Starbucks line. You could do 20-minute workouts. And here are a few that I just throw out there. This is without equipment, no fancy Peloton, no fancy treadmill, nothing, without equipment. And I'll just quickly touch on them. AMRAP, far left, that's an acronym for as many reps as possible, 20 minutes. 4 step-ups, simple. You step up on a step in your house, step back down. Do it with your left foot, back down. Do it with your right foot. Those are step-ups. 8 push-ups, 12 sit-ups. Do that and cycle it for 20 minutes. If you're near a track, a high school track, walk around the track once, that's 400 meters. Run once, that's 400 meters. Do that as many times as you can until you hit 20 minutes. Another one is just warm up a little, run a mile, cool down. That should take 20 minutes. Or you can do this, 50 step-ups, 40 box jumps. That's like jumping up on, say, a milk crate, jumping back down, 30 sit-ups, 20 push-ups, and 10 burpees. And a burpee is you basically jump up and then go down into a push-up and then do it again. So those are sample workouts for 20 minutes, and it's about the time you'll spend in the line at Starbucks. And again, no offense to Starbucks, because I might be joining their team shortly. We all run errands. We all run errands during the holidays. Go ahead, Walt.
No, I love that, a lot of times when we think about exercising, we think we have to carve out a huge chunk of time, and just chunking it down into 20-minute segments is brilliant. So thank you.
You're welcome. So again, the full frontal assault is underway. We will be running errands, perhaps incessantly. A couple of tips: just park in a spot farthest from the store entrance. Take stairs whenever possible. Keep healthy snacks available in the car. Otherwise, you'll be pulling into the Cumberland Farms or, the Wawa, looking for something, some comfort food. I used to belong to a gym that was on the 2nd floor, and it always made me laugh when people would show up to work out and take the elevator up to the 2nd floor. Always kind of mystified me. So you can get steps. Everybody talks about steps, whether it's 5,000 a day or 10,000, irrelevant what the count is. Getting steps in are a good thing. And I shared with Walt, I went nuts on Saturday blowing leaves at my house, and I tracked my steps just for kicks. And I was over 25,000 steps, about 9.5 miles of walking, pushing a leaf blower, putting the leaves on a tarp. So if you're going to go to the mall, which I think is still a thing. I've never been a mall person, but if you're not shopping online and you go to the mall, you're going to be walking around a lot, and that's not a bad thing. But just park as far away as you can, so you can get your steps in running errands.
And Carl, we've talked about not only the aerobic piece, but remembering strength and core work. As a runner, I can tell you that most running injuries are due to core deficiencies. And so, keeping it simple, like Carl suggested, if you've got a yoga studio, yoga practice, go out and stay in that. If you don't and you want to do planks and sit-ups at home, planks and sit-ups will get you, front planks, side planks, and sit-ups will get you through the holidays and keep the core strong. So again, uber simple stuff, but just staying in it consistently.
Yeah, and here's, this was a picture I took last year at BWI. I mentioned it a moment ago. They have a walking trail, a cardio trail. You'll see in the lower part of the circle, 1K, that's 1 kilometer, that's 0.6 of a mile. So you follow those signs and you're going to walk 0.6 of a mile. And they say it might take you 20 minutes. I just booked a flight with a layover in Denver. So I was curious about the Stapleton Airport in Denver. And sure enough, they have a whole menu on their walking maps. And they suggest walking between terminals A and B, and that's a 1.5-mile walk. So I've had 2-hour layovers in airports, and I'll walk because I enjoy walking, but I also enjoy people watching. And airports are a great place to do that. So if you find yourself during the holidays traveling at Thanksgiving or traveling at Christmas time, and you're stuck at an airport, walk. It's great, and it's free.
I got some bad news, Carl. I traveled a lot through Denver. Most of the connections are like 54 to 59 minutes, and it's not about walking, it's about running. So you'll actually get your steps in pretty quickly.
There you go. And I'm a big fan of competing against yourself. The rat race is upon us. Don't bite on the rat race. It's not whether you go farther or faster than your neighbor or your friend or some social media challenge. There's nobody out there but yourself. So just compete against yourself. You'll find a lot more serenity when you do that. And I would urge flexibility. And you're looking at this saying, why is there a picture of a Walmart? It's just an anecdote. I'm not advocating to shop at Walmart on Black Friday. Years ago, I was headed to a road race with a friend. I realized it was a 10-mile road race in lower Fairfield County in Connecticut. I realized it was the summer and I had forgotten my running shoes. I left them on the driveway. I was in sandals. So my friend thought it was a code red. I disagreed. I said, well, there's a Walmart near the start. And we just zipped into the Walmart parking lot. I ran in, bought sneakers, and ran the race. So I was flexible. So I would invite flexibility. People are under a lot of stress and strain. So be a little more flexible to yourself, with your colleagues, and with your family. And the frog is an anecdote from law school. Our trial ad professor said, you'll make your bones as a trial lawyer when you prepare a witness and you think this witness is going to be the greatest witness in the world. And when they get on the witness stand, they turn into a toad. And it's how you deal with that witness turning into a toad that will make you a good or not so good trial lawyer. So things come at you, and it's how we deal with them. And being flexible will help us deal with things that come our way in the next 7 weeks.
Love that, Carl. Thank you so much. So if you remember back to the wellness triad we shared with you, we had eating, exercise, and at the bottom, emotional well-being. And we believe the emotional well-being piece is like the foundation of it all. This is a little bit disturbing, Carl.
Yeah, indeed. And speaking of foundation, this, when I read it exactly or almost 1 month ago in early October in the Times, it kind of rocked my foundation. So a national governmental health panel, is now recommending anxiety screening through your primary care physician for all adults under 65. And it's a result of unprecedented, although I'm loath to use that word, unprecedented illness, isolation, and loss from the pandemic and rising crime and inflation. So the suggested guidance here is that your next PCP visit include anxiety screening. So that should be a wake-up call.
Yeah, there are so many stressors, and the holidays exacerbate that. So, a lot of people talk about morning routines, and they talk about them for a reason, because having a morning routine is a guaranteed way to start your day from a strong position. And when you don't start your day from a strong position, it can get really out of hand. I learned this lesson when I was a managing partner of a law firm, raising my 3 boys on my own. I don't recommend that you go right to 4:30 in the morning, but I began getting up every morning at 4:30. I still do it during this day because it's become part of my routine. But I journal, I meditate, I do some reflective reading. I protect those first hours of the day for myself because they're quiet and they're my own, and they allow me to enter into the day more resourcefully.
Those are great tips, very helpful. I've got here an evening routine cheat sheet. So the end of your workday, plan your next day. Just review your calendar, tick off maybe 1 to 3 tasks that you want the next day. The brain dump is analogous to closing tabs on your computer. We're on the platform Webinar Jam, and before we went live today, I closed all the tabs on my laptop. That's a great metaphor. Just close the tabs in your head. Have a ritual. If you're at home, change out of your work clothes, much like you would if you were in the office. In the evening, watch the caffeine, nicotine, and alcohol. Ditch the devices. Try not to exercise within 3 hours of bedtime. And sleep physiology best practices. Those would include having an earliest allowable bedtime, or basing your going to bed on internal cues like drowsiness, not external, like I'm going to watch this show at 10 and then at 11 I'll go to bed. Go to bed when you're drowsy. And at bedtime, QDC, that's your actual quiet, dark, cool bedroom. And write in a gratitude journal, three things that went well that day and why they went well.
I love that. And not to beat the drum, Carl, on the alcohol thing, but again, I love a nice glass of Malbec, maybe 2. In those holidays where I wasn't mindful about the alcohol consumption, alcohol will detox from your body around 2 a.m. And so it will screw up the very thing that will help you most through the holidays, which is sleep. And sleep is something that most of us aren't getting enough of. And if you did one thing that would protect your physical health and your emotional health, is to watch your sleep hygiene. Get the 7 to 9 hours a night of sleep. It will make a huge, huge difference. And the secret weapon, friends, something that I've done for nearly 30 years now, is a very simple meditation practice. Meditation is a simple tool. You can get an app or not get an app. I use a simple breath meditation. I meditate for 20 or 30 minutes a day. Gandhi once said, I meditate for an hour unless it's really, really crazy busy, and then I meditate for 2. And his lesson around that was meditation for him was so critical that he did more of it when he was under stress. 20 minutes, simple breath meditation. The metaphor I use when I'm out talking with organizations, I'll actually bring a holiday snow globe. You shake that up and the flakes are everywhere. You set the holiday snow globe down on the table and the flakes begin to settle. That is the gift of meditation over time. And the evidence, lawyers like evidence, the evidence would suggest, counselor, that cortisol is reduced, inflammation is reduced, your gene expression reducing stress over just 6 weeks gets changed up. Just a few minutes a day consistently with meditation will really ground you emotionally through these holidays to come.
Yep. And along those lines, self-care is not selfish, and I hope you folks don't think of it that way. We all are in service to others. And if you think about the wheel of service, we're in service to our partners, domestic, business, or otherwise, perhaps a spouse, children. You might have elder care responsibilities. You're in service to your friends, your communities, your employees, your clients, your customers, your colleagues. And to be in service, you must be. You must be vertical. And if you take care of yourself, it allows you to be fully present for those that you serve. Walt mentioned the flight attendant with the mask. You've got to help put the mask on you first before you help others. I like, that another one is the Uber driver. If an Uber driver has a car that doesn't work, he's just a guy with a car that doesn't work. But if he has his car, he can then be the Uber driver that he is. So I categorically reject self-care being deemed selfish. I view it as a gift to the ones that you love and serve.
Amen. Thank you for that. So, folks, we've done 2 keys so far. Number 1 is getting really, really clear about how you want your holidays to be and to enroll those around you. Key number 2 is protecting the asset, which is you, and you can do that through eating, exercise, and emotional well-being. The 3rd key is actually then to put pen to paper and to actually create a written plan. And Eisenhower once said, as Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces, planning is useless, but having a plan is essential. And what he meant by that is out in battle, things change a lot. But with a plan, you have something to return to again and again and again. A plane going from London to New York can be off course, and is often off course more than 90% of the time. But the autopilot brings it back to the center line. In your car navigation, if you go off course, recalculating brings you back. So having some type of plan, Carl, for your eating, exercise, and emotional well-being is key.
Correct. And simply stated, what gets scheduled gets done. We are prolific schedulers. We schedule things that we think are important, like doctor appointments, weddings, oil changes, colonoscopies, meetings with financial advisors. We schedule things that we think are important, like hair and nail appointments, golf tee times, the dog groomer, or the Genius Bar at Apple. We schedule these things, so we should also schedule our exercise and our fitness and our wellness and our self-care. The British Journal of Sports Medicine recently published a study on the benefits of both aerobic exercise and strength training, noting that, and I quote, switching from a sedentary lifestyle to a workout schedule is, in the words of one of the authors of the study, comparable to smoking versus not smoking. So one of the authors of that study said, you either are going to opt to smoke by not scheduling or not smoke by scheduling. So we should schedule it, and we should honor that commitment. And a scheduling or an accountability hack is schedule it with a friend. You're more likely to show up at the track and do that 20-minute workout I suggested if you're meeting somebody, because you don't want to let them down. So when the bell rings at 5:30, oh, I'm meeting Walt at the track at 6. I better get my butt up and out of bed because I don't want to let him down. So we are prolific schedulers. The iPhone is in our hands at all times. So just schedule a workout or schedule your meditation. Schedule some type of self-care.
Yeah, and I love your graphic here with the old-fashioned calendar. A dear friend of mine, I actually see her on the webinar today, recommended that I get an old-fashioned calendar to track supplements and stuff like that. And I went out to Staples and it's actually kind of challenging to get an old-fashioned one that works like this, but it provides an ongoing record of how you're doing. And as you said, when we schedule things, we give import to that. And when something is scheduled, like a doctor's or a dentist appointment, and something comes up, you don't go just, oh, well, I won't get my teeth cleaned. you actually reschedule. And so, if you've got your exercise like we do, or your meditation practice like I do on a calendar, and something comes up unexpected, it's much less likely that you're going to blow it off because it was scheduled. So schedule it. All right, Carl, key number 4. We
know your triggers.
Yeah. So if you're on this webinar, this is not your first rodeo with the holidays. You know what has worked in the past. You know what has not worked in the past. You are not entering into this holiday season blindly, especially if you've adopted key number 1, which is to create a clear vision of what you want it to be. But still, there are things that will set you off. Carl, like you, we've talked about airports. I love to travel. Travel is replete for me with emotional triggers that stress me out. And I actually have to do a lot of self-talk before I go to the airport. I'm going to be stressed. I'm going to be annoyed. I'm going through TSA. That's going to be annoying. I'm going to have to take all my stuff out, and that will get me worked up. And I'm going to have to wait in line, and the flight might get delayed. I have to do the self-talk in order to keep my emotional temperature down. Long hold times, long checkout lines. When I used to do a lot of office parties, those things would stress me out. I would need to get mentally prepared for them or to avoid them. So we would encourage you, you know them already, but write them down, identify them so that you can either avoid them or prepare for them.
Yeah, I saw a great saying the other day, Walt, and it said, "Stop complaining about things or people that suck the life out of you if you keep giving them the straw." And that really resonated.
I love that. You didn't tell me that one before. That's awesome.
Yeah. So if you go back to the previous slide, if you give these triggers the straw, they're going to suck the life out of you.
Yes.
So don't give the airport the straw. And avoid long checkout lines. So it really landed with me because we keep allowing these things to happen to us. And as a result, the life can get sucked out of us.
Yes, exactly. So you can avoid or prepare. And this last key is so important. Learning to say no. And if you're on this call, you're somebody who is a person of service, you're a person who cares, you are a person who is aware of how you are in the world, you're a person who tends to want to be of service and to give to others and to be available. But we only have so many yeses to give in our lives, and we only especially have so many yeses to give during the holiday season. No is a perfectly good word, and it is a complete success. You and I were joking yesterday as we were getting ready about the old Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz clips, Carl, where Desi would come home and say to Lucy, "You got some splaining to do, Lucy." And a lot of times we feel as if we've got some splaining to do if we aren't going to go to a holiday party or if we're going to turn down a dinner invitation. You don't owe that to anyone. No is a perfectly good sentence.
Right. And keep in mind, let's take a doctor, for instance. Your doctor is not always on call and is not always responsive. So why should you be? I mean, you have an appointment with a doctor or you call for one and they say, well, we're booking out 7 months. Well, okay. So that doctor is, saying no to a lot of things and threading people down the line. So I don't know why we shouldn't also be so protective or not be so protective of our time. We just need to draw better boundaries. It's a critical step on the wellness journey.
Yeah, boundaries, creating boundaries and buffers, creating boundaries around what works for us and what doesn't work for us. I know there are certain people that if they're going to be in the room will be triggering for me. I know there are certain relationships that don't work for me, and to continue to go back into that, as you have said, is giving someone else the straw to suck the life out of you. If it didn't work last year and the year before, it's not likely to work for you this year around the toxic personalities that you hang out with. And it's okay to draw boundaries that protect you, the asset. And by buffers, I mean to create some practices for yourself that will allow you more latitude to think about what you take on. So we have a standard operating procedure, Carl. I know I shared it with you, that Carl were to call me up and say, hey, Walt, Carol and I'd love to have you over for a holiday dinner the week after Thanksgiving. We have in our house, Ann and I, we have a standard operating procedure whereby I would say, even if Ann were sitting right next to me, I'd say, oh my God, Carl, that's so nice. Let me check with Ann and I'll get back to you before the day is out. Would that be okay? And he would say, sure. And then I would turn to Ann and I'd say, Carl just gave us a nice invitation. She said, well, yeah, but we're doing this and we're doing that. And that week is a really busy week. Do you really want to be out another week, another night that week? And I'd say, yeah, that's right. I'll call Carl back and I'll say, how about we do something in the first week of January? By providing a little bit of buffer space in the decision-making process, I am not inclined to the knee-jerk reaction of saying yes to every attractive offer that comes down the line.
And that's well said. And we feel this sense of urgency because of the immediacy that the world comes at us. We have the iPhones, we have a text. Everybody expects an instantaneous response with the text. And it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, I remember when emails were a thing, and you could honestly and ethically leave the office and say, I will be away for the week of blank without access to email. And you really had no access to email. But now with the devices, access is immediate. So people expect an immediate response. But to Walt's point, you need not give an immediate response.
So friends, those are the 5 keys. And these are keys, these are antidotes and tips and tools and strategies that we've used, that our clients use, that we teach at organizations and law firms and accounting firms and financial wellness firms. And these are keys and tools that work. And like much of learning, particularly for those of you who have, we see a number of frequent flyers, and we welcome you back to our webinar. A lot of nice new names too, so welcome to our community. But we often will say that if ideas were the only thing that were necessary for success, we wouldn't need to come to webinars and we'd be rich and thin and living on a beach. It is the implementation of the ideas that makes the difference. And the ideas and the tools and the tips and strategies that Carl and I have shared with you, we know they work. They work for us. They work for the people we serve. They may or may not work for you. And that's okay. What we want to encourage you to do is to experiment with something. Take one piece from our time together today. Take just one piece, whether it be, I'm going to be better with sleep, or, I'm going to really watch the alcohol this season, or, I'm going to get that old fashioned calendar that my friend Mary told me to get, and I'm going to write down my days that I'm going to go to yoga and Pilates, or my days for meditation, or I'm going to take up a meditation practice. Try tease out one thing that we shared with you today and give it a try. And don't do this if you're driving, but I would love to invite you right now to write down that one thing that you will try and commit to doing it. The holidays, they feel sometimes long, but think about committing for the next 7 weeks to those. Carl, we talked a little bit about how hard it is to do this by yourself. We've talked a lot about the planning process and, as important, enrolling others in the whole process as well, because if you want to go fast through something, you can do that, but it's very hard to do it if you are going by yourself. If you want to go far, it's better together. And so I'm popping in a link there, Carl, our invitation to you, no obligation whatsoever. And we don't have a lot of bandwidth for this, but if you go over there, there's a hot link in the chat, summitsuccess.typeform.com/wellness. If you click there, it'll take you to a very short type form where you put your name, your email address. I ask you for your single biggest challenge there. If you put that and then you submit that, somebody from our team will get back to you and set up a 20-30 minute strategy call where, we can walk through what may or may not be working for you, give you some more personal direction around that. No obligation, just this heartfelt invitation that we know how challenging this next 7 weeks can be, and we want to support you as best we can. We know how hard it is to do it by ourselves. That's true for Carl and me. It's true for the people we work with. It's true for all of us. We're better together. So please, 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 not a lot of space, but if you would like to go over there on the right-hand side, click that link and schedule a time. And Carl, we're very close to the top of the hour. We weren't quite sure we were going to come in close to the top of the hour.
Well, we have an on-time arrival, and
we will not have to run through the Denver airport for the connection.
I love the African proverb you shared, and I was thinking where it says, "You want to go far, go together," and that anecdote I shared with you, the 4 for 1,400. Those 1,400 miles, I was the only guy on that bike, but I was riding with the community members that chimed in, the people that I was riding for, in honor of or in memory of. They were with me every mile. So although physically I was alone on that bike, I was not alone on those miles, and I went far, and I had a community that was riding with me. So it's so appropriate. And like Walt, I appreciate everybody on this call and would love to speak with you further.
All right, the link's over there. It's kind of going down the chat thread, but we would hope that you would take advantage of that. And whether you do or you don't, Carl and I are so grateful for the opportunity to be with you here today. The holidays can be and ought to be and will be filled with great joy, because you are going to go into them much more deliberately and mindfully and intentionally. We wish you all an amazing holiday season and a wonderful 2023. And we'll look forward to seeing you again on our next webinar. Take good care.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye for now, everyone.
Bye now.